A French news agency reports late in the evening on the 10th of April that the bodies of all the victims have been found. However, official statements will claim that the search is still on. 2 days later, some will talk about the need to lift large fragments of the wreckage in order to find 5 missing bodies. In the meantime, the remains of the president are to return home the next day, directly from the Smolensk airport, while all the other corpses are to be sent to Moscow. They will be transferred to Warsaw only after a formal identification.
Przenieśmy się do Moskwy, gdzie dokonywana jest identyfikacja ciał ofiar. Powiedz, jak długo może potrwać identyfikacja?
Tego tak naprawdę tutaj nikt nie wie i chyba jeszcze trochę nie będzie wiedział, dlatego że do identyfikacji większości ciał ofiar będzie potrzebne badanie DNA. Pracuje 11 rosyjskich patomorfologów.
Oni powiedzieli, przyjmujemy każdą pomoc, bo to jest wielka tragedia dla was i wiemy, że chcecie jak najszybciej zakończyć to, co jest najbardziej przykre dla rodzin, czyli identyfikacja zwłok.
Do Moskwy dostarczono już materiał porównawczy do badań. W nocy przyleci kolejny samolot z transportem szczególnym.
Specjalne trumny, będzie to duży transport. Trumny zostaną przewiezione przez naszych rosyjskich partnerów tutaj i najprawdopodobniej we wtorek rano pierwsza część ciał ofiar tej tragicznej tragedii trafi do Polski.
Okęcie military airport in Poland, the same from which a couple of days earlier, on the 7th and the 10th of April, 2 separate delegations took off to take part in the commemoration of the 70th anniversary of the Katyn massacre. Families are waiting together with the high-ranking state officials. These people belong mostly to one party. They've just taken over the presidential office. They've already controlled both houses of parliament and the Council of Ministers. Some of them have been personally engaged in a smearing campaign aimed at Lech Kaczynski. Behind the scenes, they've been plotting to deprive the president's participation in the mourning ceremonies at Katyn of its official status. Tomasz Arabski, Donald Tusk's chief of staff, has played a prominent role in this intrigue. About a month earlier, Arabski paid a visit to Moscow, where he met with the Deputy Prime Minister Igor Sechin and the Deputy Chief of Staff Yuri Ushakov. Crucial conversation took place not in official offices, but 10 minutes away from the Kremlin on the other side of the river, in a restaurant called Dorian Gray. One employee of the Polish embassy who was present there as a translator was shown the door by Tomasz Arabski when he and his Russian lady friend switched to English. The minister requested from her afterward that she keep the entire conversation secret. The Polish ambassador, Jerzy Bar, thought it was quite extraordinary and uncommon behavior. Similar meetings, official in content, but informal as far as the circumstances are concerned, were held in restaurants in Warsaw and attended by such high officials as the Russian ambassador Yuri Grinin. Both sides agreed at these meetings that the governments would treat President Kaczynski's visit to Katyn as a private one. Both Moscow and the Warsaw administrations would not initiate actions that might recognize the trip in a manner befitting the status and dignity of the head of the Polish state. The Polish ambassador later would say during a hearing that the obstruction was largely on the Russian side. A diplomatic note was sent on the 22nd of March, and Ambassador Bar stated that if the other side was unwilling to cooperate, it must have been due to some sort of pressure from the Polish Prime Minister or the Russian President's administration. The ambassador recalled Arabski's outrage after conversations with Sechin and Ushakov. The translator, however, said the exact opposite. Arabski was not outraged, but happy with how the conversations went. He never said a word about these talks and didn't explain the unconventional circumstances in which these secret meetings with the Russians were held. 3 years later, he was discreetly withdrawn from the Polish public scene. President Komorowski appointed him the ambassador of Poland in Madrid. In fact, not a single official has ever paid any consequences whatsoever for the fact that President Kaczynski's delegation did not have an appropriate status and was not properly secured. No one will be ousted from his office. On the contrary, some of them will be decorated and promoted. With time, they will be awarded with high positions. The head of the Government Protection Bureau, who was directly responsible for the physical security of the president, Marian Janicki, will receive in the same year from the hands of Radosław Sikorski, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, a Bene Merito Medal. It is given to people whose actions strengthen Poland's prestige in the international arena. A year later, he will be promoted by President Komorowski to a higher general rank. As a young man, Marian Janicki worked in a communist civic militia, and he started his career in the Government Protection Bureau as Lech Wałęsa's driver. While being the head of this organization, he resigned from the office and moved to the private sector. Marian Janicki never suffered any consequences, even though the prosecutor's office confirmed that on the 10th of April 2010, the president of Poland was in Smolensk practically without any protection. Planes from Smolensk will land at Okęcie Airport several more times. The families will receive the coffins with the names of the passengers and crew members of the Polish Tupolev aircraft. Most of the relatives have been convinced in Moscow that it is forbidden to open the caskets due to some sanitary and customs regulations, as well as the Russian procedures. At least that's what Ministers Arabski and Kopacz suggested to the families present in Moscow. Funerals of all 96 victims of the so-called Smolensk accident are held in many different parts of Poland. Some of the remains are incinerated. Ewa Kopacz, Minister for Health, was supposed to personally supervise the identification of the bodies. This is how she described it in the parliament.
Wyruszyłam do Moskwy następnego dnia po tragedii. Z wielką uwagą obserwowałam pracę naszych patomorfologów. Polscy lekarze, kiedy założyli fartuchy i stanęli do pracy razem z lekarzami rosyjskimi, to nie musieli do siebie nic mówić. Wykonywali jak fachowcy swoją pracę.
Ewa Kopacz, the future prime minister, lied blatantly. It turned out that no Polish specialists participated in the procedure. The transcript of her speech will be falsified later on. Someone will cut out the following words.
Najmniejszy skrawek, który został przebadany, najmniejszy szczątek, który został znaleziony na miejscu katastrofy. Wtedy, kiedy przekopywano z całą starannością ziemię na miejscu tego wypadku na głębokości ponad 1 metra i przesiewano ją w sposób szczególnie staranny, każdy znaleziony skrawek został przebadany genetycznie.
Many months later, some families managed to initiate investigations due to the many uncertainties and contradictions that were discovered in Russian post-mortem reports. Exhumation would bring shocking results, showing horrendous acts of desecrating the remains. Some of the bodies have been swapped. In 2012, it was obvious that some of the victims weren't put in their proper graves. Among them were 2 priests, the former president of Poland in exile, Ryszard Kaczorowski, and Anna Valentinowicz, legendary co-founder of the Solidarity movement.
Matko Solidarności, spotykamy się już po raz drugi, żeby Cię pożegnać. Tym razem naprawdę Ciebie.
To Ty wtedy, w 80 roku, w sierpniu, do postulatów gdańskich chciałaś dołączyć postulat prawdy o Katyniu. Ty o tym całe życie pamiętałaś i tak właśnie śmierć poniosłaś.
Ania, która całe życie walczyła o sprawiedliwość i o prawdę, dziś, mimo śmierci, staje w pierwszym szeregu tej walki, wytrącając kłamcom ich atrybuty.